Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Agyantimirandasya Jananjana Salakaya. Shakshulum Militam Yena Tasme Sri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Swayam Rupa Gadami Didakti Swapatantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Patakamalam Sri Gurum Vaisnavamscha Sri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shivakantamscha Hare Krishna Karna Sindhu Dinabando Jagatpate Gopesha Kapika Kanta Radhakanta Namosate Tapta Kanjana Gourange Radhe Vrinda Neswari Vishnu Bhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Tushprascha Kripa Sindhu Vayevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya. Oh wait, Shri. Yeah.
Yes.
Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pristayane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pristachati Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Ribo. Okay, so today we're
What's the
reading a really
Shloka?
nice chapter of this chapter tells about how Mother Yashoda binds Nodi Krishna. Ribo, the butter thief. Okay, let's read the story about butter thief Krishna. Ribo. 9. Mother Yashoda binding Lord Krishna. Once upon a time, seeing that her maidservant was engaged in different household duties, Mother Yashoda personally took charge of churning butter. And while she churned butter, she sang the childhood pastimes of Krishna and enjoyed thinking of her son. The end of her sari was tightly wrapped while she churned, and on account of her intense love for her son, milk automatically dripped from her breasts, which moved as she labored very hard, churning with two hands. The bangles and bracelets on her hands tingled as they touched each other, and her earrings and breast shook. There were drops of perspiration on her face, and the flower garland which was on her head scattered here and there. Before these picturesque sights, Lord Krishna appeared as a child. He felt hungry, and out of love for his mother, he wanted her to stop churning. He indicated that her first business was to let him suck her breast and then churn butter later. Mother Yashoda took her son on her lap and pushed the nipples of her breast into his mouth. And while Krishna was sucking the milk, she was smiling, enjoying the beauty of her child's face. Suddenly, the milk which was on the oven began to boil over. Just to stop the milk from spilling, Mother Yashoda at once put Krishna aside and went to the oven. Left in that state by his mother, Krishna became very angry, and his lips and eyes became red in rage. He pressed his teeth and lips, and taking up a pierce of stone, he immediately broke the butter pot. He took butter out of it, and with false tears in his eyes, he began to eat the butter in a secluded place. In the meantime, Mother Yashoda returned to the churning place after setting the overflowing milk pan in order. She saw the broken pot in which the churning yogurt was kept. Since she could not find her boy, she concluded that the broken pot was his work. She began to smile as she thought, "The child is very clever. After breaking the pot, he has left this place fearing punishment." After she sought all over, she found a big wooden grinding mortar, which was kept upside down. and she found her son sitting on it. He was taking butter, which was hanging from the ceiling on a swing, and he was feeding it to the monkeys. She saw Krishna looking this way and that way in fear of her, because he was conscious of his naughty behavior. After seeing her son so engaged, she very silently approached him from behind. Krishna, however, quickly saw her coming at him with a stick in her hand, and immediately he got down from the grinding mortar and began to flee in fear. Mother Yashoda chased him to all corners, trying to capture the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is never approached even by the meditations of great yogis. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is never caught by the yogis and speculators, was playing just like a little child for a great devotee like Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda, however, could not easily catch the fast running child because of her thin waist and heavy body. Still, she tried to follow him as fast as possible. Her hair loosened, and the flower in her hair fell to the ground. Although she was tired, she somehow reached her naughty child and captured him. When he was caught, Krishna was almost on the point of crying. He smeared his hands over his eyes, which were anointed with black eye cosmetics. The child was his the child saw his mother's face while she stood over him, and his eyes became restless from fear. Mother Yashoda could understand that Krishna was unnecessarily afraid, and for his benefit she wanted to allay his fears. Being the topmost well-wisher of her child, Mother Yashoda began to think, if the child is too fearful of me, I don't know what will happen to him. Mother Yashoda then threw away her stick. In order to punish him, she thought to bind his hand with some ropes. She did not know it, but it was actually impossible for her to bind the Supreme Person of Godhead. Mother Yashoda was thinking that Krishna was her tiny child. She did not know that the child had no limitation. There is no inside or outside of him, nor beginning or end. He is unlimited and all pervading. Indeed, he is himself the whole cosmic manifestation. Still, Mother Yashoda was thinking of Krishna as her child. Although he is beyond the reach of all senses, she endeavored to bind him up to a wooden grinding mortar. But when she tried to bind him, she found that the rope she was using was too short by 2 inches. She gathered more ropes from the house and added to it, but at the end she found the same shortage. In this way, she connected all the ropes available at home, but when the final knot was added, she saw that it was still 2 inches too short. Mother Yashoda was smiling, but she was astonished. How was it happening? Hare Krishna.
Can I read, Prabhu?
Haribo. Yes, Prabhu.
In attempting to bind her son, she became tired. She was perspiring, and the garland on her head fell down. Then Lord Krishna appreciated the hard labor of his mother, and being compassionate upon her, he agreed to be bound up by the ropes. Krishna, playing as a human child in the house of Mother Yashoda, was performing his own selected pastimes. Of course, no one can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The pure devotee surrenders himself onto the lotus feet of Lord, who may either protect or vanquish the devotee. But for his part, the devotee never forgets his own position of surrender. Similarly, the Lord also feels transcendental pleasure by submitting himself to the protection of the devotee. This was exemplified by Krishna's surrender onto his mother Yashoda. Prabhu, can you just scroll down? Krishna is a supreme bestower of all kinds of liberation to his devotees. But the benediction which was bestowed upon Mother Yashoda was never experienced even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva or the goddess of fortune. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as the son of Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, is never so completely known to the yogis and speculators, but he is easily available to his devotees. Nor is he appreciated as a supreme reservoir of all pleasure by the yogis and speculators. After binding her son, Mother Yashoda engaged herself in household affairs. At that time, bound up to the wooden mortar, Krishna could see a pair of trees before him, which were known as Arjuna trees. The great reservoir of pleasure, Lord Sri Krishna, thus thought to himself, Mother Yashoda, first of all, left without feeding me sufficient milk, and therefore I broke the pot of yogurt and disturbed the stocked butter in charity to the monkeys. Now she has bound me up, store and mortar. So I shall do something more mischievous than before. And thus he thought of pulling down the two very tall Arjuna trees. There is a history behind the pair of Arjuna trees. In their previous lives, these trees were born as the human sons of Kuvera, and their names were Nalakuvara and Manigriva. Fortunately, they came within the vision of the Lord. In their previous lives, they were cursed by the great sage Narada in order to receive the highest benediction of seeing Lord Krishna. This benediction curse was bestowed upon them because of their forgetfulness due to intoxication. This story will be narrated in the next chapter. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the ninth chapter of Krishna, Mother Yashoda, binding Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Rivo. This Krishna's reasoning was amazing.
Yeah, this was nice.
He did
Also
everything.
giving charity to monkey.
Yes, Prabhu. He Krishna was not eating the butter alone. He was distributing it to the monkey. So what was so wrong?
Prashadam distribution.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, Hari
You
Bol.
can go to the picture, Prabhu, like that picture of Krishna, like giving to the monkey.
Oh, it's here up. What is here? Yeah, here is the picture. Here is Mother Yashoda doing something.
No. This is not. This is that. Is it in reference to that? Because isn't it baby Krishna? This looks like grown up.
Oh, here is the other picture. Yes. Yeah, this is about the cards falling.
Yeah.
But where is? I know this picture. You know, it's not here, but you know the picture where Krishna is eating the butter.
Yeah, with
Being
one
on the
hand in
floor.
mouth,
Yes,
right?
Prabhu. Is this picture? Is visible? Oh, yeah.
Yes, Prabhu.
But in this one, there is no monkeys.
Can you type Krishna stealing butter? Like, I think. Yeah, this one is like a different picture also. I think it's this one. Can you put that full screen maybe?
Yes, bro. Mother Yashoda is like, what are you doing?
The monkey is like, give me more.
Oh, Krishna, what is this nonsense guy? Yes, bro. Okay, now let's read about the deliverance of Nalakuvera and Manigriva.
Yes, Prabhu. Can I continue or like maybe?
Yes, Prabhu. Anyone can continue. You can continue, or if anyone wants
Yeah.
to read, they can continue also.
If everyone's okay, I'll continue. Otherwise, no issues.
Yes, Prabhu. For me, it's okay.
No
Go.
problem, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu. So I'll continue. Chapter 10, Deliverance of 1 minute. Can you hear me properly now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Deliverance of, can you, okay, yeah. Of Nalakurva and Manigriva and their deliverance by Krishna. Sorry, the story of cursing of Nalakurva and Manigriva and their deliverance by Krishna. Under the all blissful desire tree of the great sage Narada is here described. The two great demigods, Nalakurva and Manigriva, were sons of the treasurer of the demigods, Kuvera. Okay, Hare Krishna Subramanian Prabhu. Thank you so much for your suggestion. Or Guru Shri Prabhupada,
Hare Krishna Subramanya Prabhu. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Prabhu.
who was a great devotee of Lord Shiva. By the grace of Lord Shiva, Kuvera's material opulences had no limit. As a rich man's son often becomes addicted to wine and women, so these two sons of Kuvera were also addicted to wine and sex. Once these two demigods, desiring to enjoy, entered the garden of Lord Shiva in the province of Kailasha on the bank of Mandakini Ganges. There they drank much and engaged in hearing the sweet singing of beautiful women who accompanied them in that garden of fragrant flowers. In an intoxicated condition, they both entered the water of the Ganges, which was full with lotus flowers, and there they began to enjoy the company of the young girls exactly as the male elephant enjoys the female elephants within the water. While they were thus enjoying themselves in the water, all of a sudden Narada, the great sage, happened to pass that way. He could understand that the demigods Nalakuvara and Manigriva were too intoxicated and could not even see that he was passing. The young girls, however, were not so intoxicated as the demigods, and they at once became ashamed at being naked before the great sage Narada. They began to cover themselves with all haste. The two demigod sons of Kuvera were so intoxicated that they could not appreciate the presence of the sage Narada and therefore did not cover their bodies. On seeing the two demigods so degraded by intoxication, Narada desired for their welfare, and therefore he exhibited his causeless mercy upon them by cursing them. Because the great sage was compassionate upon them, he wanted to finish their false enjoyment of intoxication in association with young girls and wanted them to see Lord Krishna eye to eye. He, he conceived of cursing them as follows. He said that the attraction for material enjoyment is due to an increase of the mode of passion. A person in the material world, when favored by material opulence of riches, generally becomes addicted to three things: intoxication, sex, and gambling. Materially opulent men, being puffed up with the accumulation of wealth, also become merciless that they indulge in killing animals by opening slaughterhouses, and they think that they themselves will never die. Such foolish persons, forgetting the laws of nature, become overly infatuated with the body. They forget that the material body, even though very much advanced in civilization, up to the position of the demigods, will finally be burned so to ashes. And while one is living, whatever the external condition of the body may be, Prabhu, can you just highlight this? Yeah. Within there is only stool, urine, and various kinds of worms. Thus, being engaged in jealousy and violence to other bodies, materialists cannot understand the ultimate goal of life. And without knowing this goal of life, they generally glide down to a hellish condition. In their next birth, such foolish persons commit all kinds of sinful activity on account of this temporary body, and they're even unable to consider whether this body actually belongs to them. Generally, it is said that the body belongs to the persons who feed the body. One might therefore consider whether this body belongs to one personally or to the master to whom one renders service. The masters of the slaves came full right to the bodies of the slaves because the master feeds the slaves. It may be questioned then whether the body belongs to the father, who is the seed giving master of this body, or to the mother who develops the child's body in her womb. Foolish persons are engaged in committing all sorts of sins due to the misconception of identifying the material body with the self. But one should be intelligent enough to understand to whom this body belongs. A foolish person indulges in killing other animals to maintain the body, but he does not consider whether this body belongs to him or to his father or mother or grandfather. Sometimes a grandfather or a father gives his daughter in charity to a person with a view of getting back the daughter's child as a son. The body may also belong to a stronger man who forces it to work for him. Sometimes the slave's body is sold to the master on basis that the body will belong to the master. And at the end of life, the body belongs to the fire. Because the body is given to the fire and burned to ashes, or the body is thrown into the street to be eaten by the dogs and vultures. Before committing all kinds of sins to maintain the body, one should understand to whom the body belongs. Ultimately, it is concluded that the body is a product of material nature, and at the end, it merges into material nature. Therefore, the conclusion should be that the body belongs to material nature. One should not wrongly think that the body belongs to him. To maintain a false possession, why should one indulge in killing? Why should one kill innocent animals to maintain the body? When a man is infatuated with the false prestige of opulence, he does not care for any moral instruction but indulges in wine, women, and animal killing. In such circumstances, a poverty stricken man is often better situated because a poor man thinks of himself in relation to other bodies. A poor man often does not wish to inflict injuries to other bodies because he can understand more readily that when he himself is injured, he feels pain. As such, the great sage Narada considered that because the demigods Nalakuvara and Manigriva were so infatuated by false prestige, they should be put into a condition of life devoid of opulence. A person who has pinprick in his body does not wish others to be picked by prince. A considerate man in the life of poverty does not wish others to be also put into that condition. Generally, it is seen that one who has risen from a poverty stricken life and becomes wealthy creates some charitable institution at the end of his life so that other poverty stricken men might be benefited. In short, a compassionate poor man may consider others' pains and pleasures with empathy. A poor man may be seldom puffed with false pride, and he may be freed from all kinds of infatuation. He may remain satisfied by whatever he gets for his maintenance by the grace of the Lord. To remain in the poverty stricken condition is a kind of austerity. According to the Vedic culture, therefore, the Brahmanas, as a matter of routine, keep themselves in a poverty stricken condition to save themselves from the false prestige of material opulence. False prestige due to advancement of material prosperity is a great impediment for spiritual emancipation. A poverty stricken man cannot become unnaturally fat by eating more and more. And on account of not being able to eat more than he requires, his senses are not very turbulent. When the senses are not very turbulent, he cannot become violent. Another advantage of poverty is that a saintly person can easily enter a poor man's house, and thus the poor man can take advantage of the saintly person's association. A very opulent man does not allow anyone to enter his house. Therefore, the saintly person cannot enter. According to the Vedic system, a saintly person takes the position of a mendicant so that on the plea of begging something from the householder, he can enter any house. The householder who has usually forgotten everything about spiritual advancement because he is busy maintaining family affairs can be benefited by the association of a saintly person. There is a great chance for the poor man to become liberated through association with a saint. Of what use are persons who are puffed up with material opulence and prestige if they are bereft of the association of saintly persons and devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? The great sage Narada thereafter thought that it was his duty to put those demigods into a condition where they could not be falsely proud because of their material opulence and prestige. Narada was compassionate and wanted to save them from their fallen life. They were in the mode of darkness, and being therefore unable to control their senses, they were addicted to sex life. It was the duty of a saintly person like Narada to save them from abominable condition. In animal life, the animal has no sense to understand that he is naked. But Kuvera was a treasurer of the demigods, a very responsible man, and Nala Kuvera and Manigriva were the two of his sons, and yet they became so animalistic and irresponsible that they could not understand due to their intoxication that they were naked. To cover the lower part of the body is a principle of human civilization, and when a man or woman forgets this principle, they become degraded. Narada therefore thought that the best punishment for them was to make them immovable living entities or trees. Trees are, by nature's laws, immovable. Although trees are covered by the modes of ignorance, they cannot do harm. The great sage Narada thought it fitting that, although the brothers, by his mercy, would be punished to become trees, they continue to keep their memory to be able to know why they were being punished. After changing the body, a living entity generally forgets his previous life. But in special cases, by the grace of the Lord, as with Nalakuvaira and Manigriva, one can remember. Sage Narada therefore contemplated that the two demigods should remain for 100 years in the time of the demigods in the form of trees, and after that they would be fortunate enough to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face by His causeless mercy, and thus they would again be promoted to the life of demigods and great devotees of the Lord. After this, the great sage Narada returned to his abode known as Narayana Ashrama, and the two demigods turned into trees known as twin Arjuna trees. The two demigods were favored by the causeless mercy of Narada and given a chance to grow in Nanda's courtyard and see Lord Krishna face to face. Although the child Krishna was bound up to the wooden mortar, he began to proceed towards the growing trees in order to fulfill the prophecy of his great devotee Narada. The Lord Krishna knew that Narada was his great devotee and that the trees standing before him as twin Arjuna trees were actually the son of Kuvera. I must now fulfill the words of my great devotee Narada, he thought. Then he began to proceed through the passage between the two trees. Although he was able to pass through the passage, the large wooden mortar struck horizontally between the trees. Taking advantage of this, Lord Krishna began to pull the rope which was tied to the mortar. As soon as he pulled with great strength, the two trees, with all branches and limbs, fell down immediately with a great sound. Okay. Out of the broken fallen trees came two great personalities, shining like blazing fire. All sides became illuminated and beautiful by their presence. Yeah, Manu Prabhu, you can read. I'm sorry for taking too long.
All right, very well. Hold on a second. All right, the two purified bodies immediately came before the child Krishna and bowed down and offered their respects and prayers to the following in the following words. Dear Lord Krishna, you are the original personality of Godhead, master of all mystic powers. Learned Brahmanas know very well the cosmic manifestation is the expansions of your potencies, which are sometimes manifested and sometimes unmanifested. You are the original provider of life, body, and senses of all living entities. You are the eternal God, Lord Vishnu, who is all pervading, the principal controller of everything. You are the original source of the cosmic manifestation, which is acting under the spell of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. You are living as a super soul in all multi forms of the living entities, and you know very well what is going on within their bodies and mind. Therefore, you are the supreme director of all activities of all living entities. But although you are in the midst of everything, which is under the spell of the material modes of nature, you are not affected by the contaminated qualities. No, no one under the jurisdiction of the material modes can understand your transcendental qualities, which exist before the creation. Therefore, you are called the Supreme Brahman, who is always glorified by his personal internal potencies. In this material world, you can be known only by your different incarnations. Although you assume different types of bodies, these bodies are not part of the material creation. They're always full of transcendental potencies of unlimited opulences, strength, beauty, fame, wisdom, renunciation. In the material existence, there is there is a difference between the body and the owner of the body. But excuse me, because you appear in your original spiritual body, there's no such difference for you. When you appear, your uncommon activities, excuse me, your uncommon activities indicate that you are the supreme personality of Godhead. Such uncommon activities are not possible for anyone in a material existence. You are you are that supreme personality of Godhead, now appearing to cause a birth, death, as well as liberation of the living entities. You are full with all plenary expansions. You bestow everyone all kinds of benediction. O Lord, O source of all fortune and goodness, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you. You are all pervading supreme personality of Godhead, the source of peace and the supreme person in the dynasty of the Yadu. O Lord, our Father, known as Kuvera, the demigod, is your servant. Similarly, the great sage Narada is also your servitor, and by their grace, only we have been able to see you personally, and therefore pray that we may always be engaged in your transcendental loving service by speaking only about your glories and hearing about your transcendental activities. May our hands and our other limbs be engaged in your service. Our mind be always be concentrated at your lotus feet. Uh, our heads always bowed down before the all-pervading universal form of your lordship. When the demigods Nanda Kuvera and Manigriva finished their prayers, the child, Lord Krishna, the master and proprietor of Gokula, bound to a wooden grinding mortar by the ropes of Yashoda, began to smile and said, "It was already known to me that by my great devotee, sage Narada, uh, had shown his mercy, costless mercy by saving you from the abominable condition of pride due to possessing extraordinary beauty, opulence in the family of demigods. He has saved you from the gliding down into the lowest condition of hellish life. All these facts are already known. Mm, excuse me, hold on. Known to me. You are very fortunate because were not only cursed by him, but you had a great opportunity to see him. If someone is able by chance to see a great person like Narda face to face, who is always serene and sincere. Yes, yeah, no, serene and merciful to everyone, then immediately that conditioned soul becomes liberated. This is exactly like being situated in the full light of the sun. There cannot be any visionary impediment. Therefore, Nala Kuvera and Manigriva, your lives have now become successful because you have developed a static love for me. This is your last birth within the material existence. Now you can go back to your father's residence in the heavenly planets, and by remaining in the attitude of devotional service, you will be liberated in this life. After this, the demigod circumambulated the Lord many times and bowed down before him again and again, and thus they left. The Lord remained bound up with ropes to the grounding motor. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the tenth chapter of Krishna, deliverance from Nanda Kuvera and Manigriva. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Narada Muni ki jai.
Jai.
Oh, next chapter we are going back to demon killing.
Evil.
2 demons at the same time. This Pakasura is scary looking one. Who's this? It's like this.
Is this him?
Yeah.
Abakasor.
It's huge. See what Krishna is doing?
Yeah, when he swallowed all the cowherd boys.
And then you just split him open like a great
Yeah,
blade of grass.
yes, exactly.
What is this?
Manu Prabhu, can you just check the group chat? The Vaishnav
The
family
group
group chat?
chat.
Yeah, there's a question for you.
Yeah, there's a question
For
for you.
me, what can I even answer?
You're the senior devotee, Prabhu. You should answer.
No senior.
Why they always ask about these guys? And then there is persons saying, half of the persons say that. Well, let's read the six Aztecan prayers first.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावादुजीवनम् आनन्दं पुदिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्
Nam Namaka Ripauda Nitisara Saktis Taktrapitani Amitasmane Nakalaha Ita Tushita Vakipa Bhagavama Mapi Turtiva Mitri Samyajani Nanuragaha.
Тринadapi Sunijana, Tarorapi Sahishna, Manina Manadena Kirtani Hasada Harihim.
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवताद् भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि
Ainanda Tanu Kinkaram Patitam Mam Visvamem Bhavambudo Kripaya Tavaparak Bhaktaja Stita Tuli Satyasam Vitintaya.
Nayanam Galudashardharayam, Vadanam Gadgada Ruthaya Gira, Pulakir Nishitam Vapuhukada, Tavanam Grahane Bhavishiti.
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा भ्राविर्स्यायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण मे
Asusya Paravatumam Adasanam Mamam Hatam Kurutva Yatatata Vavitatulam Pato Matpananastu Sevanaparaha.
Haribo. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and it extinguishes the fire of conditional life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large. What is happening? At large. Because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
Hey, Krishna. Oh my Lord, you have your holy name alone can render all benedictions to living beings. Thus, you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the strong in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful woman, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth.
O son of Nanda, Krishna, I'm your eternal servant. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all awakened in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally.
Haribol Sri Siksastakam ki jai.
Yeah,
Jai,
Prabhu ki jai. Panchatattva ki
Jai,
jai.
Jai,
Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Jai,
Prabhu
Jai,
Nityananda ki jai.
Jai,
Jai,
Jagat Guru Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
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 Jai Go
Jai.
Premanande. Hari Hari Bo.
Hari
Hari, 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 Bo.
Hari